Teasel's Tudor Trivia!
Hi, welcome to another edition of Teasel's Tudor Trivia. Now, you might remember that Teasel and I did a talk on nappies, or diapers as some countries call them, in the Tudor period, and that we promised to talk about what babies and children wore. Well, here you go. In part one today, we're going to talk about Tudor babies. Now, Teasel doesn't really understand why Tudor children, Tudor babies, had to wear more than nappies. But I have explained to her that humans don't tend to have a lot of fur and we need clothes to keep us warm, but she thinks it's a daft idea, so there you go. She thinks we're badly designed, which is probably true. Now, on top of the nappy or the diaper, or tail clout or piss clout as it was called, a baby would be dressed in a linen shirt, and I mentioned that last time. This shirt would open all the way down the front. It wouldn't have any fastenings because it needed to be easy to remove. So you have the tail clout, you have this open shirt. We've got a cat coming in now, haven't we, Teasel? And then the next layer was called the bed. This was a rectangular cloth, like a shawl or blanket, and it covered the baby from neck to feet and was long enough to fold over at the bottom and wide enough to wrap around the body. So on top of this, so on top of the tail clout, on top of the shirt, on top of the bed, came the swaddling bands or rollers or swathing bands, all the same thing. Now in the higher classes, these swaddling bands would be made from linen, and in the lower classes, they'd be made from wool or flannel. A record of bands being bought for a baby that Catherine of Aragon was expecting in 1514 show that they were 3 yards long and 13.5 inches wide. The idea of swaddling the baby was to keep the baby warm, to keep their limbs straight, and also to keep them safe from harm. Now, the baby wouldn't be swaddled for 24 hours a day. It was recommended that they have time without the bands on so that they could sort of kick their legs and move their arms around. When the baby was 3 to 4 weeks old, their arms were no longer confined by swaddling, and instead the bed, that rectangular cloth that was wrapped around them, would wrap under the arms and be held in place by bands around the body and legs, so the arms would be free. Sleeves would then be pinned or laced in place, or a kind of little waistcoat would be worn. Now, I'm actually going to show you a picture of this. Now, this is a baby who is actually dressed up for something special. But you can see that the bands, and actually those are very posh bands, there's probably not so posh bands underneath those, but you can see that the baby is swaddled up to sort of under the arms, and the baby's got sleeves and the arms free. By the way, this book, The Tudor Child, Jane Huggett and Ninya Mikhaila, is a fantastic read. Got a dog drinking in the background here. The baby's head would usually be covered with a forehead cloth, a piece of cloth positioned on the forehead and tied at the back, and then a biggin, which was a close-fitting linen cap. A stay band was then used to keep the baby's neck and head still and straight. And this stay band was a piece of fabric which was pinned to one shoulder, so pinned to the shoulder and then went over the head before being pinned to the other shoulder, to keep the head and neck in a straight sort of position. A bib would then be pinned to the swaddling bands to protect the clothing from breast milk, vomit, dribble, you name it. A baby would be swaddled like this, so they went from being fully swaddled to being swaddled with their arms free until they were around 8 to 9 months old. And in our next edition, we will move on to what toddlers and children wore. Thank you for bearing with us today. How did you find that, Teasel? She's definitely more interested in chasing cats than talking to you, I'm afraid. Oh dear. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Teasel's Tudor Trivia.